So welcome everyone. In today's video I'll be making all of the hardware in order to make a vise for a bench that I'm building. And the reason I'm going through all of this is because I actually just couldn't find anything that was going to work for this bench. So the bench is going to be a smaller bench. It's actually going to sit on top of my main bench, and I'm going to use that as a way to get closer to the work. And so since it is a somewhat uncommon size, finding hardware that would work was a little difficult, and it was just easier to make my own. And so all of this is going to be built around a 3/4 inch Acme threaded rod. And what I've been working on so far is getting a nut turned down, getting some holes drilled and tapped in it, and so I can mount all of that together. And this part is what will be installed into the bench, and it is what the threaded rod will interact with that allows the vise jaw to open and close. And so now I'm going to try something a little bit different, something I've never done before, and that is forge brazing. And so I have some copper wire here. I'm going to get it hot and then permanently affix all of those parts together. All right, so I just thought I'd break in here real quick and just kind of explain what I was doing and why I did it, what I was thinking. So that part goes into the workbench, and it's what the lead screw will interact with that and allow the vise jaw to move in and out. And all of this rigmarole, what I was doing there was forge brazing that part together. And that is overkill for this part, and it was kind of a last minute idea I had. Originally what I was going to do was just use those two screws, which would have been more than enough to hold it together, and throw some thread locker in there, and it never would have came apart. But I've been wanting to learn how to forge braze, so I figured to go ahead and do it now. So for the filler material, I was using some copper wire. I have some scrap electrical wire sitting around, and so I just pulled the ground wire out. I used that. That seemed to work just fine. And then for the flux, I was using some borax 20 mule I got from the grocery store. So nothing crazy difficult to get. And all of it worked. It looks like the part is one piece, and I can't complain. Flux can eat away at the lining of the forge, and I did apply the stuff that helps resist flux when I lined my forge, but figure there's no sense in just letting a bunch of it just run all over. So I decided I was going to go ahead and put a metal plate down first to help protect the floor of the forge, and that was also be something I'd get my tongs on and get my part in and out of the heat. And it worked for getting it in and out of the heat. It did not work so well for protecting the forge lining. So I applied way too much flux, so that was the first thing. And then it ran more than I thought it was going to, so it just kind of went everywhere. But hey, we're learning, right? So there's that. What I was not expecting, and what seems obvious now in retrospect, and probably should have been obvious before I started getting things hot, was the possibility that I would get my part and that metal plate stuck together. And I didn't really consider it. It was just kind of sitting on there. The fit up was wasn't what you would call close at all. The screw heads in that nut were left proud, so it was like there wasn't really a lot of contact between those two pieces. But I somehow managed to stick together like an inch by inch section of that plate to my part. And I had a hell of a time getting it split apart. Yeah. The other thing is getting the flux cleaned off after I'm done. I probably should have wired it while it was still hot. That would have helped a lot. I've seen a couple different solutions. One of them is vinegar, and vinegar worked really well when I was silver brazing in the flux that I use for silver brazing. I'm not sure how it's going to work with borax. I'm hoping it's going to work because that's really easy. That is going to sit in the vinegar for a while, and I'm going to go work on some other stuff. I'm probably going to work on the hub that holds the handle for that lead screw. But I don't think that's what you're going to see next. Instead, I think this next shot is going to be... So what I'm going to do now on the edit is drill a couple holes for set screws, and then get that part in the bench, and then then the timeline will show be me at the lathe turning down part of a nut to turn that into what will be the hub for the lead screw. Let's get to it. All right, I need to turn this down so I can get it to fit inside of this piece. This is going to be the hub, and I'm going to drill a hole through it later, and it'll turn it into a handle. But so I just got to trim that down a little bit to get that to stick in, and then afterwards I'll probably get it all connected and then flip it around. So now I'm creating a groove in the backside of what was the nut, and that is going, I'll have a piece of brass that is going to help capture that and hold it in place on the vise straw. And I thought everything was much more secure than it actually was. I ended up snapping the bonds done with the epoxy. And so now I probably should have done this first. I'm just going in and installing a pin to hold everything together mechanically. And with that done, I can work on the handle. The ends need to be drilled and tapped to hold some bumpers so the handle doesn't fall out of the hub. And so this part here, this is what's going to hold, allow the threaded rod and all of that, the handle, to stay attached to the vise jaw, and as it moves in and out, the jaw will go with it. Surprisingly, the spade bit worked for this. Wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but I had an extra one and I wasn't too concerned if I trashed it. So the next part here is I need to figure out how I'm going to guide that jaw in and out. And so I have some steel, and I'm going to use that as a guide. I don't really have a better way to say that. And knowing what I know now, I should have waited on drilling all of these holes. I'm going to do some decorative work to all this steel in a later stage, and the fit changed a bit as it went along. And so a lot of this, throughout this section of the video, this is just me trying to figure out how all of this is going to work. And the thing I'm finding here is that steel is it's slipping. So I really just need a better way to hold everything, and now everything is just too tight. It's not really moving at all. So some washers between all those pieces give it enough room to allow everything to slide easily. And now it's just time for the improvement. So that's the back side of the main guide bar,
and I beveled it off so it can slip between those horizontal pieces easier. And the other thing I've noticed is it needs like a stop like you find on a leg vise. So that's what I made there. Got everything drilled out. And now that allows that all to work nicely. Now that it was all working good, I can work on the aesthetics. So that's what we're going to do now. And come through. These parts are getting a nice little round over, so they look good. And now it's time to work on the pin, and I didn't want just a boring old pin, so we're going to taper this out, and you're going to watch me learn how I do this in real time. And so this is all new to me. I've never done any kind of drawing out before, really, and so basically what I'm trying to do is essentially just make a J-hook. And I was hoping to get everything a little more rounded, and I just needed more material for that, and I didn't. But in the end, I'm happy with what I achieved. And so I thought all of these parts were just looking a little bit boring, so I'm going through and just adding some decorative touches to them. And so that's just a simple stamp I had. I took a piece of like quarter inch round bar and basically filed a star into it. It was bending pretty easily, so I made it a long time ago when I was working on the cypress and walnut table, and I don't remember if I hardened that stamp or not. It might just have been made from mild steel. So I need to go through. I think I'm going to have to remake all those stamps. Then I was adding some decorative lines, and for that I have a cold chisel. I'm not sure where it came from. I found it in my tool stash, so that's what we're using. And then for one of the bars, I wanted to try something a little more decorative. So we're gonna do some kind of animal. I'm calling it a dragon. And so for the mouth, I've gone ahead and established where that's going to be with the chisel, and I'm going to now get it hot and finish cutting it out with the chisel, because in doing so, it's going to displace some of the material in there, and I'll get more of a 3D effect with that mouth compared to if I were to just cut it with a bandsaw. I wouldn't have the same kind of look to it. And now I'm working on I have a piece of brass, and I'm going to make a horn because I don't want it to look like a snake. And so I'm just going to go ahead and silver braze all of this together just so it will stay in one piece. And so now I'm using the ball peen to just add some divots, give it a little more texture. And I wasn't real happy with the way that horn was looking either. It was looking more like a dunce cap, so I kind of went in and shortened it up and changed things on it. And now I get them all the parts nice and clean. And some of these I'm going to chemically blacken using some gun blue. So that's what I'm doing now. And then there's other parts that I'm going to heat blue. Just doing that in the toaster oven. I just want a variety of colors. The gun bluing gives me this like nice dark gray before the oil comes in, and then it'll turn real black once the oil is attached. And for that piece there, I heated it up in the oven, and you can get some more brown colors, and that's what I wanted. Now it's time to install it all. And knowing what I know now, I would have waited to drill all the holes, but I wasn't, because I was trying to figure it out as I go. I had to drill all the holes first. In doing the forge work, it did change my measurements a little bit, so things aren't running quite as smooth as they were, but hey, you know what? It still works. And so this is all of the completed hardware. And I got to say, I'm real happy with it. I think it's working out really well. It's going to be a great addition to the shop. I got to say, I really like all the decorative kind of elements. I used 2 stamps on everything. One, I just used a nail set to get the circles, and then I had that star punch that I had made earlier, and then there was also the line, the chisel line to do line work and stuff, and I really like how it looks. I'm so happy with this. And my original plan was just to use the Vise hardware for like a tail vise and adapt that, but it was way too big. And going down this path, I like everything a lot better. So you'll notice in the background that the bench that all this is attached to is done. The building of that will take place in the next video. We are already at like a half hour on this one, and it's just for the hardware. I figured, you know what, let's split it up into 2. Thank you so much for following along. I sincerely appreciate your viewership. If you want to see what else I've been working on, you can click around the channel, see those videos. I'll also leave links in the description to my website if you want to see, like a photo gallery of some of my past projects. And then because I'm going to plug it and some shameless self-promotion, I do occasionally sell some of the things I make, and I list those on my website as well as on Etsy. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.